we may have some serious trouble ahead for the silver price, for the gold price, for the platinum price. We're going to cover in this video why, in particular, this week could be very, very challenging, but also what it means on a long-term basis. And when I say long-term, I guess I mean short-term, long-term, the next month to 3 months. Also, and that has to do with what's going on with the Fed, of course, but also in the economy. What news did we get that could be utterly devastating to the U.S. economy? We got some news from Goldman Sachs. Our friends at Goldman Sachs, we're going to cover that as well. What's going on with the UAW strike? We're going to touch on that situation. And I'm going to ask your opinion of what you think regarding the United Auto Workers out on strike. What could that do to the economy? But also, are you in favor? Are you pro or con? We're going to cover that. What about the big Australian $250 billion bank that's outlawing cash? Guys, we got a ton to cover, and I owe you a big, big apology. Yeah, you can blame me. The price of silver is down precipitously this morning. We don't like that. Before I came on, I saw silver down 40 cents per ounce. Gold was down $10, $11, $12 per ounce. I should have come on earlier and warned you about this, but I had it all prepared. Here's what's going on. It's real simple. I was reading last night, the week ahead. What big events do we have this week that will impact the price of silver, will impact the price of gold? And I read that we have 6, no less than 6, Fed speakers this week. They are going to blast out a verbal assault upon the markets because you know and I know that's all they can do this week. We have 6 Fed speakers, right? They'll go to their fancy lunches and they'll talk about how aggressive they have to be with monetary policy to fight inflation, including apparently our old friend Jerome Powell will be speaking this week as well. But they're losing the battle. Guys, it is so critical to understand, yes, we could have a horrific week this week. We could see silver down by 10%. We could see gold maybe drop as much as $70 or $80 per ounce. I hope I'm wrong, and I'm not definitively predicting that that's the case. None of us has a crystal ball. But we are going to get hit with a barrage of hawkish rhetoric. I'm going to say it one time. Don't be offended. I like to refer to it as verbal diarrhea because that's all the Fed can do at this point. A great analogy to think about is you can think about it like a war, right? The Fed is out of real ammunition with which to fight inflation. They can't raise rates. We've covered this ad nauseum, basement dwellers, right? The 10-year bond, I didn't check this morning, but as of Friday, it was like 4.4%. Banks are on life support. The consumer's on life support. Companies are on life support. Our government is on life support. More and more people are waking up to the fact that our government right now is not just broke, they're like beyond broke and managing things like a bunch of drunken sailors. The Fed cannot raise rates. On top of that, the debt levels, corporate, government, consumer, student loans, mortgage, all of it, the list goes on, is at record all-time highs. Higher rates are going to destroy things. The rates right now are wreaking havoc, and we haven't even felt the full effect. So here's a good analogy, and we're going to look at this in two things. Antibiotics. This is not a healthcare show, but you've heard that about antibiotics. They've lost their effectiveness over time because they were overused. Well, right now, two components to this antibiotics analogy. The Fed raised rates at the fastest rate in history over the last 16 months, okay? We're just now starting to feel the full impact of that. It's like when you take antibiotics and the doctor tells you, it's going to take a month or it's going to take a week until the antibiotics start to work, supposedly. Right now, it's a lag effect. Right now, we're just starting to feel the economy. And I got more news for you later from Goldman Sachs that it can indicate to us that this economy that we're in right now can be in big trouble. We're just starting to feel the effects of the interest rate hike antibiotics that the Fed gave the economy over the last 16 months. The other component of that analogy is, you've also heard this about antibiotics. They've lost their effectiveness because they've been overused over time. And that's also, as the Fed looks to go forward, they don't have many more antibiotic pills to use. But on top of that, they're losing their effectiveness. You know, it's like if two countries are in a war, not a war, a war. I even asked my 11-year-old daughters last night, is it war or war? I don't know why it's war, but it's war. They're in a war. We got to giggle a little bit on this heavy subject matter. And one country's out of ammunition. They're not going to say they're out of ammunition. They're going to say, oh, we got more coming and we're going to get you. And that's just what the Fed's doing. The Fed is going to kill the price of silver and gold and maybe even platinum this week. Possibly. And they're doing it with I didn't have time to look. I looked at the price of gold and silver this morning and it had a nosedive. I'm almost guaranteeing you that's because one of these Fed speakers said something. But it's like the Wizard of Oz, right? Remember the movie The Wizard of Oz? At the end, the Scarecrow and Dorothy and the Tin Man and the Cowardly Lion, they realized that the guy behind the curtain was just a big fraud. It was all a big illusion. Actually, a lot of that movie has to do with, from what I understand, precious metals and some of the it was actually a politically oriented movie back in the time, and it applies today. Jerome Powell's like the wizard, the wizard behind the curtain, right? And did you see him during the last press conference? He looked scared to me. He looked like a scared little boy. You know, he didn't look like a man who believed what he was saying. Nonetheless, be ready this week, guys. It's not good, you know. But here's the good news for silver and gold investors. Right, we're gonna endure this barrage, but in the long run, when we look out, maybe even before the end of the year, the real price of the metals will begin to manifest themselves. That's my wholehearted belief. Sorry, my voice is a little crackly this morning. I hope you can endure that as well. Hey, thank you guys all for being here. Please give it a thumbs up. Press that thumbs up button. That helps. That helps get the word out to more and more people. Here's a great question I heard posed by one of the analysts on X. I'm not going to say Twitter. I'm going to say X. They said, why don't we ask the Fed this? And this is about our government. This is about Joe Biden and Janet Yellen, right? Our favorite grandma. Why not ask the Fed, why now is the government spending at recession level they're doing recession level spending, massive deficit level spending, if we are not in a recession? We're hearing that now from every corner. Why is our government spending, right, $1.4 trillion more every year right now? That's recession level. That's like wartime level spending if we're not in a recession. Go figure. You know, I really want to get Jerome down here in the basement. Jerome Powell, one last time, I'm going to invite you down to the basement so you and I can talk. I'll be nice. But us basement dwellers, we've got some questions for you. And what is this telling us about the economy? So we're spending, right, at recession levels right now. But what's going on right now in the economy that is downright scary? Let me share this with you. Buckle in, because this is not good. And this tells us a lot about what's happening in the economy. This comes from our friends at CNBC. Credit card losses are rising at the fastest pace since the great financial crisis. Credit card losses. This comes from Goldman Sachs. Credit card companies are racking up losses at the fastest pace in almost 30 years, outside of the great financial crisis, according to Goldman Sachs. Credit card losses bottomed in September of 2021, and while initial increases were likely reversals from stimulus, they have been rapidly rising since the first quarter of 2022. So the credit card companies were doing great just, 2 years ago? Because everybody had received all this printed unicorn fart dust, make-believe money from the government. So people had money in savings accounts, were paying off credit card debt, everything looked hunky-dory. But now, 2 years later, we're seeing record levels of credit card losses, delinquencies, people saying, sorry, I can't pay, okay? It's called bankruptcy. I'm going to claim bankruptcy, okay? Since that time, it's been an increasing rate of losses. It's far from over, predicts Goldman Sachs. Losses currently stand at almost 4%, up 1.5 percentage points from the bottom, and Goldman sees them rising again to almost 5%. This comes at a time when Americans owe more than $1 trillion on their credit cards, according to the Federal Reserve from New York City. Here, we think delinquencies could continue to underperform seasonality through the middle of next year and don't see losses peaking until late 2024 or early 2025 for most issuers. This is key. This is key. What is unusual is that the losses are accelerating outside of an economic downturn. He pointed out. Okay, so think about that. What did we just talk about? We just said, why? Thank you, Don, for that super chat. Wow, super generous. Thank you. Thank you. Why is our government spending like we're in a recession, right, if we're not in a recession? Think about this, basement dwellers. And why, like they point out here, are we having credit card losses at a rate that usually coincides with a major recession if we're not in a recession? Why is the government spending at recession levels? Why are consumers defaulting on their credit cards, both at rates that only occur during a recession if we're not in a recession? Sorry, I want to bang the desk. Does that make sense? But everything's great. Just ask Jerome Powell. Ask Janet Yellen. We're not in a recession. I don't think they would ever say that we're in a recession. I want to say thank you to our sponsor, Pimbex online bullion dealer. If you want to get yourself some silver, gold, or platinum, just in case you think we might be heading into a recession, that's the place to check out. They're trustworthy. They have the best prices, the best service. They're a gracious sponsor of Ron's Basement. They allow me to make these videos. So please go check out Pimbex, Pimbex, Pimbex. I love to say the word as well. And I've bought silver from them. I only take sponsorships from companies that I work with. Now let's get back on track about these credit cards. Oh, here, we'll get fancy. Of the past 5 credit card loss cycles, the 3 were characterized by recessions. That's what the guy from Goldman Sachs says. Well, no joke. Boy, he must have a fancy education. The 2 that occurred when the economy was not in a recession were in the mid-90s and 2019. So, here, in our view, this credit card cycle resembles the characteristics of what was experienced in the late 1990s. BS, right? They're all in this together. They're all going to say we're not in a recession. People aren't paying their credit cards. People aren't going to pay their student loans back. People aren't paying their car payments. What's next? Do you think maybe people might stop paying their house payments? And then who's going to buy those houses that the banks loaned all that money on? Who's going to be able, and if the Fed's going to be so tough going forward, Jerome Powell's going to be, tough on inflation, rates are going to be higher. What happens when mortgage rates go from 8%, where they darn near are right now, up to 10 or 12%. And people aren't paying their houses. Who's going to buy those houses? If they keep this up, and don't forget, silver and gold this week are going to be facing a tornado of trouble coming from the Fed in the form of verbal diarrhea. I'm sorry I have to say it. There's no other way, no other way to say it. Those they're rolling out the clowns, right? They're rolling out all the Fed governors to say, hey, we're going to be tough. We're going to be hokey. Yeah, right. Okay. And then the Wizard of Oz himself is behind the curtain pulling the strings. People are starting to wake up, though. That's the thing. Okay. Even Bloomberg, Bloomberg, they had something very interesting. People are asking me, somebody said, why don't you ever cite your sources for what you talk about? Here, that's my sources. You want to come over and read through it? You go right ahead. But let me just pull one off the top. This is from Bloomberg. It says Chinese gold buying is driving a paradigm shift in bullion. So this whole article, I'm not going to read it to you because I read it for you already. Basically what it says is central banks are buying gold. The Chinese are buying gold. Oh, really? If you're a basement dweller, which you are, you're here with me, and thank you for doing that. Don't forget, thumbs up. We almost got 100. I'm going to ring the bell 10 times, right? When we get to 100 thumbs up, okay? But if you're a basement dweller, you know that the Chinese are buying gold. But what this article points out, and they talked to several top analysts, okay? There's the bells. I apologize to those of you who are annoyed by that, but that will never go away. Think of something happy when you hear the bells ring, like the fact that the Chinese are buying gold hand over fist. We've covered that ad nauseum. We don't need to go through that again, do we? No. But what's interesting about this article is that these analysts point to the fact that gold has done so well in this environment. Guys, gold should be right now at $1,700 an ounce. $1,650, $1,750. I'm not saying from a traditional analysis point of view, when you look at real interest rates, because now that interest rates are supposedly higher than inflation, and I say supposedly because do we really believe the inflation numbers? But officially, according to our government, who would never, ever, ever, your government would never lie to you, right? No. Right? We have positive real interest rates. That means you can buy a 6-month CD or a bond that's going to pay you more interest, right, than supposedly the inflation rate. In that environment, gold should be down in the toilet. But you know what? And when I talk about gold, I'm talking about silver. I'm talking about platinum as well. But you know what? And that's what this article points out. All these, MBA and PhD and went to Oxford and Harvard and the Wharton School of Business, right? They're all saying, we don't understand why the gold price isn't lower. The gold price should be much lower. It's a new paradigm is what they're saying. A new paradigm. That means a new way of looking at things. And they're recognizing that. Mainstream media, Bloomberg, they're recognizing there's something going on in our models that we spent 35 years and $80 million developing. Our models are confused as to why gold is doing so well. Why silver's not at $18 an ounce, right? It's a new, thank you, Craig. Thank you, my friend. I know it isn't, it's a lot. Hey, any super chat is greatly appreciated. Anything helps. Thank you, Craig, okay? I appreciate it. So this is, you can look this one up yourself, right? Chinese gold buying, new paradigm from Bloomberg, right? That's like the Wall Street Journal or the Financial Times. And these people are confused. Are we confused? No, because we know that gold and silver and platinum palladium, whatever all the metal, all the copper, we'll throw a little copper in there. Copper's our friend as well. They've held their value for all these years. They know the Mickey Mouse BS going on right now with the Fed. Guys, hang in there. All right, don't forget. And we got a lot more to talk about. We still have to cover the UAW. We're going to talk about this Australian bank. Are you ready for CBDCs? You better get ready. Are you ready for no more cash? Right? No more paper. I'm going to leave my paper money alone. You better be ready. But right now, we're going to hit a little storm thanks to Jerome Powell and his little clown show. They rolled out the clown show this week. Get ready. You know, the circus is coming to town, and they're going to be telling us a bunch of BS about what they're going to do to supposedly fight. The reality is, look, here's a little secret for you. The smartest people in the room know this mathematical fact. Okay, I have a degree in accounting from a fancy university. Okay. Don't listen to a guy in his basement. I don't know what I'm talking about. No, I understand how money works. I understand math. Like I said, accounting, how all this stuff works. There's no way out of the situation that we're in right now without an outright default by our government, and they don't want to do that because that causes pain for the rich. I mean, look at what's gone on over the last 30, 40, 50 years. The elite, the top 1% have hijacked the system. Do you think now they're going to let it crash? No, they're going to find some imaginative way to perpetuate things. And the only way they can do that is by inflating away the debt. I won't go into it, okay? You can look it up, and if you want to dive into that yourself, but I'm telling you mathematically, okay, the brightest, and I'm not saying I'm the brightest guy in the room, but the other bright people, besides you, because you are bright, that's one thing. Google Analytics tells me that about my audience. Advertisers are willing to pay big money to advertise to you guys because you are bright people. That's an absolute fact. So give yourself a little pat on the back. But the bright people that spend their lives analyzing this, and I'll throw myself kind of into that, realize there's no way out of this situation without inflating away the debt. So those BS 3% inflation numbers, at the end of the day, the Fed needs inflation. I want Jerome Powell to come down here and explain to me how the U.S. government can survive otherwise. Because we're going to get to a point, okay, when they run out of their reverse repo money they've been using to buy all the bonds, giving that to the banks, and the banks buy the bonds. That's going to run out. Some people are saying within 8 to 9 months. Wow, thank you, Don. Thank you for that super chat. Man, what? Oh my gosh. Thank you, Don. That was super generous. The government's going to run out of money. I'm in shock. I'll say one more time, thank you, Don. I hope you didn't add an extra digit on accident, and I really appreciate that. The government's going to run out of money, and then the only option is going to be let everything crash, or print, right? I mean, that's the reality. That's the harsh situation that we're in right now because of fiscal, right? That's the government, and monetary, that's the Fed mismanagement. They really, really stuck it to us, guys. Okay, so we don't like it, but we want to be aware. We want to know what's going on. This week, I'm going to say it one last time, is going to be a bit of a battle for silver and gold in the face of a bunch of continued Fed BS. The United Auto Workers are on strike. What do you think about that? I want to get a feel for my audience. And it's okay. We all have different opinions. I was a steel worker. When I was in college, I went to fancy university, and then during the summer, I was a member of the Steelworkers Union. Probably some of the best memories of my life, by the way, making steel three-piece baby food cans. Anyway, are you for? You can type FOR or against the UAW? Or do you have no feelings about it? I just want to get a feel for where the audience stands, because we're seeing this all over. Okay. And as we talk about what's going on with the credit cards right now, that Americans are out of money, out of savings, their credit card balances are going through the roof. Can we not understand to a certain extent that why people, wow, thank you guys for the super chats. I don't know what to say except thank you. Casey's against. Ricky's House of Crap is for. Marcos is for. Brandon's for. Are you for or against? Brother Watto, against. For. I'm just curious. But the middle class is suffering right now, okay? I mean, that's the reality. We talk about silver and gold. We talk about the middle class in this country have been just completely squeezed. And if we compare that to India, if we compare that to a country like China, where the middle class is experiencing like crazy, unbelievable growth right now, what is going on in this country? That's my question. What is going on in this country right here? Let's talk about CBDCs, digital money, digital currency. I was shocked, and I think yesterday I put out a short video about this. I was shocked to read that a bank in Australia, okay, and when we say Australia, yes, it's halfway around the globe to most of us in the United States, but Australia is part of the Western system, the Western economy. A $250 billion bank. Let me see if I can slaughter the name of this bank for you. It's Macquarie is how I'm going to pronounce it. Hopefully I have that right. Maybe some of my Australian friends can tell me. $250 billion Australian bank. That's big. That's huge. Cash, done. Okay? All right? If you want to go into that bank, and it's by the end of 2024, no more cash. None. You want to go into a branch and get cash? Go see a teller? Can't do it. Not allowed. Their telephone banking system, not allowed. It's done. Okay. It's crazy what is happening right now. Think about this. This is a major bank basically telling their customers, we aren't going to deal with cash, period. The only way you'll be able to get cash if you bank with Macquarie Bank is by going to an ATM. They're going to have some ATMs where you can withdraw a little cash if you need it. They're going completely digital. Whoa, what do you think about that? What do you think? And I put out a poll yesterday, and it was really split. I asked you guys, do you think that in 3 years we're going to have cash? Or do you think it's going to be gone within 3 years? Do you think that between 3 and 7 years, cash will be gone? Or do you think there were three options? Or will cash be around forever? It was like split. A third of you thought cash will be gone within 3 years. A third thought it'll be gone between 3 and 7. And a third thought we're going to have cash forever. I think it's somewhere between 3 and 7 years. We aren't going to, they're getting rid of cash, guys. I think announcements like this in the coming 1, 2, 3 years are going to be commonplace. Cash no more. Everything all digital. And isn't this just one step closer to an outright CBDC environment? Let me read. I'll just read you a couple quick quotes from this. Here's what the bank said. Between January of 2024 and November, okay, so between January and November of next year, we will be phasing out our cash and check services across all Macquarie banking and wealth management products. We are also switching off our automated telephone banking service used to make payments over the phone. This means that from November of 2024, we'll no longer offer cash or check services. I mean, what? Instead, you'll be able to make payments digitally. A safer, quicker, and more convenient way to bank. It's all in your best interest, right? It's like when companies lay people off or cut paychecks. This is really in your best interest. I don't know. You will not. This is the interesting thing. And I'm sure I read that correctly. You won't be able to deposit cash. All right. I mean, what the heck is going on? I to be honest, that I was never a big, huge like CBDC. Oh my God, afraid of CBDCs. But to me, that indicates that we're certainly heading in that direction. And I think we're going to see more and more of that type of announcement. And guys, what does that mean for silver and gold? I guess I seem to repeat this to you every 2 or 3 days. When everything goes digital, I think that silver and gold are going to catch a huge bid. People are going to be flocking to their silver, flocking to their gold. Okay, that's absolutely what I see being the case. I think people are going to realize, like, okay, there's no more, everything's digital. I don't like that. I want something real that I can hold on to. Even just the marginal buyers, the people who maybe bought some silver 8 years ago or 12 years ago or 15 years ago, or bought some gold, are going to wake up and be like, I don't like the fact that everything that I have that's supposedly think about this scenario. Think about 5 years from now, and there's no more cash. Sorry, there's no more cash, no more coins. It's all gone. Everything is digital. How are people? How are you going to feel? And it's not just us, because we already know, we already feel that way. But put yourselves in the shoes of an average-ish intelligent person, and they're going to be like, at that point, everything I own of value from a monetary perspective is on my phone, is in cyberspace, is make-believe. I don't know, I mean, aren't they going to wake up and be like, maybe it's a good idea that I get some real asset, because cash is worthless. Paper money is no longer, this will have officially become worthless at that point. A lot of people are going to realize, like, hey, you know what? Maybe, just maybe, I want to hold something real, something of value, just in case my phone stops working. I don't have any food stored up. I don't have any water stored up. And my entire ability to live is based upon my phone working. Aren't those people going to maybe, just maybe at that point say, I'm thinking I want to have something real. I want to have some of this, right? The silver, or maybe some gold. I want more than this. Here, that's your whole life savings. How does that feel? I don't know. I don't feel comfortable with that. And I think a lot more, we don't know. We know now. When just a few more people wake up to what you already know and I already know, okay, it's going to be a potential. It's just a few people come join us. It's going to be a big, major supportive factor for the silver price and the gold price. We know, let's just, today's rough. It's going to be a rough week, but let's review. Let's go back 6 months. We just went forward 5 years. Let's go back 6 months to what happened during that little bitty banking crisis we had back in March, April of 2024, when 3 of the 4 largest banks in the history of the United States went belly up. And they still can't, by the way, sell a lot of the assets that those banks supposedly held, in particular their commercial real estate portfolio, because nobody wants it. But nonetheless, when those 3 little banks had that little problem that Jerome Powell, he didn't see 3 days earlier when he was testifying in Congress, telling them that everything was fine. Everything's great. Everything's fine. And then 3 days later, we're having emergency meetings between the Federal Reserve and Janet Yellen, and we got a banking crisis. I remember it was Sunday. I was barbecuing, and people are lighting my phone up. I'm like, what is going on? Right? What is happening? And they're having emergency meetings. Ooh, we got one question. Just remember, okay? Remember that little period of time. People flocked to gold. People flocked to silver. There's a great article. There's a great article. It was a mainstream media article. It was, I don't know, it was a CNBC or maybe it was the Wall Street Journal about people still. It was in reference to that senator who just got busted because he had a bunch of gold bars that he had received. He didn't ask for cash. He got gold bars. Maybe those senators aren't so dumb after all. Anyway, it talked about how people flocked and are still flocking, and this was in particular to gold, to physical gold, right? That's what's going to happen when everybody wakes up. And it is going to, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not giving financial advice, but if I were a person who didn't have what I felt was a sufficient supply, I would be dollar cost averaging into precious metals now, because we know what the world is doing. We know that China and India and all the BRICS countries, Saudi Arabia, they're sucking metal into their coffers. It's getting harder and harder to find, okay? We know the limited supply of gold. I mean, do you realize that like every year, it's not like gold miners could supply a bunch more gold. Like at best, they add like 1% to the entire world gold supply, and they can't. It's very difficult for them to find more gold. You know the story on silver, you basement dweller. Silver production's going down. There's not a big new supply coming on. It's not going to take. It doesn't take a lot. I mean, that increase in demand that we saw during March, April may have felt crazy. And the online bullion dealers were making you wait 3 weeks to get your metal, and you had to order over they raised their minimum order level. And, and I know Andy Schectman, I don't think he said like, I added more customers in 1 month than I had during the entire previous, I don't know, was it a year or 5 years, something like that? It was crazy. That was nothing compared to what we could see. If we keep heading in this direction in which we're heading right now, we could see an unbelievable demand. Now, I also quickly want to say thank you to our other sponsor. There it is. The old bear. He loves First Mining Gold. They're a gold development company. If you want gold in the ground, okay, a company that's already discovered major gold reserves in the ground in Canada, which is a safe place right now. Check out First Mining Gold. They have 2 5 million ounce projects in Canada and 4 other projects that they own, either all or part of as well, all in Canada. And they're exploring for more gold. It's a unbelievable value opportunity right now. In my opinion, I don't offer financial advice. I own the stock, okay? I only accept sponsorships from companies in which I own them personally. I've owned First Mining for years. I know the CEO. I know Keith Neumeyer founded the company. I believe in Keith Neumeyer. Check him out, okay? firstmininggold.com. Thank you. No more commercials during this interview, okay? No, I'm sorry. Live stream, video, whatever we want to call it. I'm losing it. I spent the night last night with my daughters and her friend at Six Flags Fright Fest. So I'm a little my brain's still a little shaken up from hours. Thank you, Marcos, for that super chat. Thank you, guys. Man, you are awesome. What else is going on in the world? We talk about silver and gold. This is not a subject that we breach very often on this channel. I'm not a big fan of war, whatever. I think Susie's on here. She likes when I say war. Anyway, are things we have a all-out conflict right now in Europe. We talk about the world splitting. We're not just saying people aren't agreeing, okay, and verbally, we have actual shooting, unfortunately, and horrific situations unfolding. And we heard from, let me read this to you. This was from the Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov said this at the United Nations. And I guess what I'm saying is that this bifurcation, this dichotomy that we're having right now isn't getting any better. I'm going to quote what he said. He said, "Our future is being shaped by a struggle between the global majority in favor of a fairer distribution of global benefits and civilized diversity. He's referring to the BRICS when he says that, and between the few who wield neo-colonial methods of subjugation in order to maintain their domination, which is slipping through their hands. That would be the West, is who he's referring to there. I'm not saying I agree or disagree. Look, I was born in America, but I think what's important, the takeaway from reading that, is the fact that this split that we have right now in the world is not showing any signs of healing. It's only showing signs of getting worse. They're saying that basically he told the UN that if they want to fight, if they want to continue this war, we're ready. We'll continue the war. So look, we don't like it. I don't like it. I'm sure you don't like it either. But the reality is the world is continuing to not get along, I think is a good way to sum that up. We got 200 thumbs up. Hey, thank you, guys. I'm going to ring the bell over here. And we got 400 people on the live stream. You guys are awesome. Man, the basement is where we hang out. I want you to know this. You belong here, okay? We all need friends. We need face-to-face interaction. You can see me. I feel like I can see you, and it's a big, big deal. And we are in a tough business. Pat yourself on the back, brother, sister. Pat yourself on the back, because you know what? We are in a tough, tough business. The precious metals, we know the value. We know the story behind it. But the big power structure is, how would I say this? Not necessarily our friend. And we are, to a certain degree, fighting a battle, fighting it together. But at the end of the day, we can always remember the history of the metals. Always have been valuable and everywhere. Hey, let's jump over to the chat and say hello. Thank you again for the super chat. Wow, Don, Don Howe gave me an unbelievable super chat, and I'm so grateful. And I know Susie is, all of us. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Jake's Custom Parts, Neil. Hello, Neil. Neil Hahn's Dynasty, the Platinum Guru. Annie Oakley's here. Wow. CoinShop Chris. Guys, please say thank you to all the moderators. They go out of their way to make this show possible. We are the basement dwellers, okay? I will be back tomorrow, and until then, I want you to be well. Thank you, okay? Let's be nice to ourselves first and foremost, the best we can today, and that will enable us to be nice to others. Oh, there was something else. Here. Oh, wait, don't go. This hit me last night. I was thinking about us basement dwellers. I love that term, right? And I was thinking, I wasn't trying to think of a slogan. This just came into my mind out of nowhere. It was like, basement dwellers. The truth comes from the most unlikely places. I don't know. I thought that was a good one. So watch out for the crypto scammers. CoinShop Chris is messaging me. He wants you to be safe. I will never request you to contact me via WhatsApp or anything. If you want to get in contact with me or Susie, our email addresses are in the description of every video. If you want to get in touch with CoinShop Chris, email me and I can provide you his contact information as long as he's okay with that, which he always is. If you want to support CoinShop Chris, there's a link in the description of this video on where you can help support CoinShop Chris because he does a tremendous amount for this channel. So does Jake, so does Annie, so does Mary, so does Neil, so does, if I forgot somebody, I apologize. And I'll see you guys soon. Thank you.